forward to this. And I also, if you guys want to record to your computer, especially during the discussion, you're very welcome to do so. I've put the settings so that you can record if you wish to do that. Right. I want to go back on something that I posted in the group last week, which was hang on. Oh, I know where he is. I'm so sorry. Always looking for things, aren't I? Okay.
I
Okay.
understand.
You probably saw it and read it and wondered, what is this? I posted it last week. And it's a quotation that I think is fabulous because Robert Olin Butler is a very famous short story writer and novelist and all around nice guy as well. And he wrote an excellent book on writing called From Where You Dream. And he gives a key in this book and in this chapter and in this quotation to what makes a short story really work. So there's a secret, and this is the secret. I would say that of the three fundamentals of fiction, there are two that aspiring writers never miss. First, that fiction is about human beings. Second, it's about human emotion. But the third element, which is missing from virtually every student manuscript I've seen, has to do with the phenomena of desire. My favorite word in this regard is yearning. We yearn. We are the yearning creatures of this planet. There are the superficial yearnings, and there are the truly deep ones, always pulsing beneath. But every second we yearn for something, and fiction, inescapably, is the art of human yearning. So,
Yeah.
yearning is what drives fiction, according to Robert Allen Butler. And I think that's a good
Hmm.
question to bear in mind as we listen to. Listen to. She hopes that there is okay, the audio is somewhere around. Just give me a second and I will find it for you. Okay. No, it's all fine. It was on my screen and then suddenly it's not on my screen, but it's I know exactly where to find it. It's on my Audible. It's in my library. And it's right here. Okay. Wait a second. Sorry. Right. Okay. We also need the text of the story. So let me bring up the text of the story as well, PDF. Sorry. Sorry, 1 second. I know that it's here somewhere around. It disappeared. All right, it's on my yes, it's on here, isn't it? PDF. There we go. And we have the PDF. I'll make it a bit bigger. Okay, is everybody comfortable? Then we'll begin. We need to have the whole thing, don't we? We'll move it back in a second. Right.
Paper Menagerie. One of my earliest memories starts with me sobbing. I refused to be soothed, no matter what Mom and Dad tried. Dad gave up and left the bedroom, but Mom took me into the kitchen and sat me down at the breakfast table. Kan, she said, as she pulled a sheet of wrapping paper from on top of the fridge. For years, Mom carefully sliced open the wrappings around Christmas gifts and saved them on top of the fridge in a thick stack. She set the paper down, plain side facing up, and began to fold it. I stopped crying and watched her, curious. She turned the paper over and folded it again. She pleated, packed, tucked, rolled, and twisted until the paper disappeared between her cupped hands. Then she lifted the folded up paper packet to her mouth and blew into it like a balloon. Can, she said. Laohu. She put her hands down on the table and let go. A little paper tiger stood on the table, the size of two fists placed together. The skin of the tiger was the pattern on the wrapping paper, white background with red candy canes and green Christmas trees. I reached out to Mom's creation. Its tail twitched and it pounced playfully at my finger. Roar, it growled, the sound somewhere between a cat and rustling newspapers. I laughed, startled, and stroked its back with an index finger. The paper tiger vibrated under my finger, purring. Cha-chow, cha-cha, Mom said. This is called origami. I didn't know this at the time, but Mom's kind was special. She breathed into them so that they shared her breath and thus moved with her life. This was her magic. Dad had picked Mom out of a catalog. One time when I was in high school, I asked Dad about the details. He was trying to get me to speak to Mom again. He had signed up for the introduction service back in the spring of 1973. Flipping through the pages steadily, he had spent no more than a few seconds on each page until he saw the picture of Mom. I've never seen this picture. Dad described it. Mom was sitting in a chair, her side to the camera, wearing a tight green silk cheongsam. Her head was turned to the camera so that her long black hair was draped artfully over her chest and shoulder. She looked out at him with the eyes of a calm child. That was the last page of the catalog I saw, he said. The catalog said she was 18, loved to dance, and spoke good English because she was from Hong Kong. None of these facts turned out to be true. He wrote to her, and the company passed their messages back and forth. Finally, he flew to Hong Kong to meet her. The people at the company had been writing her responses. She didn't know any English other than hello and goodbye. What kind of woman puts herself into a catalog so that she can be bought? The high school me thought I knew so much about everything. Contempt felt good, like wine. Instead of storming into the office to demand his money back, he paid a waitress at the hotel restaurant to translate for them. She would look at me, her eyes halfway between scared and hopeful while I spoke, and when the girl began translating what I said, she'd start to smile slowly. He flew back to Connecticut and began to apply for the papers for her to come to him. I was born a year later, in the year of the tiger. At my request, Mom also made a goat, a deer, and a water buffalo out of wrapping paper. They would run around the living room while Liao chased after them, growling. When he caught them, he would press down until the air went out of them, and they became just flat, folded-up pieces of paper. I would then have to blow into them to reinflate them so they could run around some more. Sometimes the animals got into trouble. Once, the water buffalo jumped into a dish of soy sauce on the table at dinner. He wanted to wallow like a real water buffalo. I picked him out quickly, but the capillary action had already pulled the dark liquid high up into his legs. The sauce-softened legs would not hold him up, and he collapsed onto the table. I dried him out in the sun, but his legs became crooked after that, and he ran around with a limp. Mom eventually wrapped his legs in saran wrap so that he could wallow to his heart's content, just not in soy sauce. Also, Liao Hu liked to pounce at sparrows when he and I played in the backyard. But one time, a cornered bird struck back in desperation and tore his ear. He whimpered and winced as I held him, and Mom patched his ear together with tape. He avoided birds after that. And then one day, I saw a TV documentary about sharks and asked Mom for one of my own. She made the shark, but he flapped about on the table unhappily. I filled the sink with water and put him in. He swam around and around happily. However, after a while, he became soggy and translucent and slowly sank to the bottom, the folds coming undone. I reached in to rescue him, and all I ended up with was a wet piece of paper. Lao Hu put his front paws together at the edge of the sink and rested his head on them. Ears drooping, he made a low growl in his throat that made me feel guilty. Mom made a new shark for me, this time out of tinfoil. The shark lived happily in the goldfish bowl. Laohu and I like to sit next to the bowl and watch the tinfoil shark chasing the goldfish, Laohu sticking his face up against the bowl on the other side, so that I saw his eyes magnified to the size of coffee cups, staring at me from across the bowl. When I was 10, we moved to a new house across town. 2 of the women neighbors came by to welcome us. Dad served them drinks and then apologized for having to run off to the utility company to straighten out the prior owner's bills. "Make yourselves at home. My wife doesn't speak much English, so don't think she's being rude for not talking to you." While I read in the dining room, Mom unpacked in the kitchen. The neighbors conversed in the living room, not trying to be particularly quiet. "He seems like a normal enough man. Why did he do that?" "Something about the mixing never seems right. The child looks unfinished, slanty eyes, white face, a little monster." "Do you think he can speak English?" The women hushed. After a while, they came into the dining room. "Hello there. What's your name?" "Jack," I said. "That doesn't sound very Chinesey." Mom came into the dining room then. She smiled at the women. The 3 of them stood in a triangle around me, smiling and nodding at each other with nothing to say, until Dad came back. Mark, one of the neighbor boys, came over with his Star Wars action figures. Obi-Wan Kenobi's lightsaber lit up, and he could swing his arms and say in a tinny voice, "Use the Force." I didn't think the figure looked much like the real Obi-Wan at all. Together we watched him repeat this performance 5 times on the coffee table. "Can he do anything else?" I asked. Mark was annoyed by my question. "Look at all the details," he said. I looked at the details. I wasn't sure what I was supposed to say. Mark was disappointed by my response. "Show me your toys." I didn't have any toys except my paper menagerie. I brought Liaohu out from my bedroom, but then he was very worn, patched all over with tape and glue, evidence of the years of repairs Mom and I had done to him. He was no longer as nimble and sure-footed as before. I set him down on the coffee table. I could hear the skittering steps of the other animals behind in the hallway, timidly peeking into the living room. "Shao Laohu," I said, and stopped. I switched to English. "This is Tiger." Cautiously, Laohu strode up and purred at Mark, sniffing his hands. Mark examined the Christmas-wrapped pattern of Laohu's skin. "That doesn't look like a tiger at all. Your mom makes toys for you from trash?" I never thought of Laohu as trash, but looking at him now, he was really just a piece of wrapping paper. Mark pushed Obi-Wan's head again. The lightsaber flashed. He moved his arms up and down. "Use the Force." Laohu turned and pounced, knocking the plastic figure off the table. It hit the floor and broke, and Obi-Wan's head rolled under the couch. "Rawr!" Laohu laughed. I joined him. Mark punched me hard. "That was very expensive. You can't even find it in the stores now. It probably cost more than what your dad paid for your mom." I stumbled and fell to the floor. Laohu growled and leaped at Mark's face. Mark screamed, more out of fear and surprise than pain. Laohu was only made of paper, after all. Mark grabbed Laohu, and his snarl was choked off as Mark crumpled him in his hand and tore him in half. He balled up the 2 pieces of paper and threw them at me. "Here's your stupid, cheap Chinese garbage." After Mark left, I spent a long time trying, without success, to tape together the pieces, smooth out the paper, and follow the creases to refold Laohu. Slowly, the other animals came into the living room and gathered around us, me and the torn wrapping paper that used to be Laohu. My fight with Mark didn't end there. Mark was popular at school. I never went to think about the 2 weeks that followed. I came home that Friday at the end of the 2 weeks. "Shui xiao, hao ma?" Mom asked. I said nothing and went to the bathroom. I looked into the mirror. I looked nothing like her. Nothing. At dinner, I asked Dad, "Do I have a chink face?" Dad put down his chopsticks. Even though I had never told him what happened in school, he seemed to understand. He closed his eyes and rubbed the bridge of his nose. "No, you don't." Mom looked at Dad, not understanding. She looked back at me. "Shui jiao chink." "English," I said. "Speak English." She tried. "What happened?" I pushed the chopsticks and the bowl before me away. Stir-fried green peppers with 5-spice beef. We should eat American food. Dad tried to reason. A lot of families cook Chinese sometimes. We are not other families, I looked at him. Other families don't have moms who don't belong. He looked away, and then he put a hand on Mom's shoulder. I'll get you a cookbook. Mom turned to me. 不好吃? English, I said, raising my voice. Speak English. Mom reached out to touch my forehead, feeling for my temperature. 发烧了. I brushed her hand away. I'm fine. Speak English. I was shouting. Speak English to him, Dad said to Mom. You knew this was going to happen someday. What did you expect? Mom dropped her hands to her side. She sat, looking from Dad to me and back to Dad again. She tried to speak, stopped, and tried again, and stopped again. You have to, Dad said. I've been too easy on you. Jack needs to fit in. Mom looked at him. If I say love, I feel here. She pointed to her lips. If I say I feel here. She put her hand over her heart. Dad shook his head. You are in America. Mama hunched down in her seat, looking like the water buffalo when Lahu used to pounce on him and squeeze the air of life out of him. And I want some real toys. Dad bought me a full set of Star Wars action figures. I gave the Obi-Wan Kenobi to Mark. I packed the paper Menagerie in a large shoebox and put it under the bed. The next morning, the animals had escaped and took over their old favorite spots in my room. I caught them all and put them back into the shoebox, taping the lid shut. But the animals made so much noise in the box that I finally shoved it into the corner of the attic, as far away from my room as possible. If Mom spoke to me in Chinese, I refused to answer her. After a while, she tried to use more English, but her accent and broken sentences embarrassed me. I tried to correct her. Eventually, she stopped speaking altogether if I was around. Mom began to mime things if she needed to let me know something. She tried to hug me the way she saw American mothers did on TV. I thought her movements exaggerated, uncertain, ridiculous, graceless. She saw that I was annoyed and stopped. You shouldn't treat your mother that way, Dad said. But he couldn't look me in the eyes as he said it. Deep in his heart, he must have realized that it was a mistake to have tried to take a Chinese peasant girl and expect her to fit in the suburbs of Connecticut. Mom learned to cook American style. I played video games and studied French. Every once in a while, I would see her at the kitchen table studying the plain side of a sheet of wrapping paper. Later, a new paper animal would appear on my nightstand and try to cuddle up to me. I caught them, squeezed them until the air went out of them, and then stuffed them away in the box in the attic. Mom finally stopped making the animals when I was in high school. By then, her English was much better, but I was already at that age when I wasn't interested in what she had to say, whatever language she used. Sometimes when I came home and saw her tiny body busily moving about in the kitchen, singing a song in Chinese to herself, it was hard for me to believe that she gave birth to me. We had nothing in common. She might as well be from the moon. I would hurry on to my room where I could continue my all-American pursuit of happiness. Dad and I stood, one on each side of Mom, lying in her hospital bed. She was not yet even 40, but she looked much older. For years, she had refused to go to the doctor for the pain inside her that she said was no big deal. By the time an ambulance finally carried her in, the cancer had spread far beyond the limits of surgery. My mind was not in the room. It was in the middle of the on-campus recruiting season, and I was focused on resumes, transcripts, and strategically constructed interview schedules. I schemed about how to lie to the corporate recruiters most effectively so that they'd offer to buy me. I understood intellectually that it was terrible to think about this while your mother lay dying, but that understanding didn't mean I could change how I felt. She was conscious. Dad held her left hand with both of his own. He leaned down to kiss her forehead. He seemed weak and old in a way that startled me. I realized that I knew almost as little about Dad as I did Mom. Mom smiled at him. I'm fine. She turned to me, still smiling. I know you have to go back to school. Her voice was very weak, and it was difficult to hear her over the hum of the machines hooked up to her. Go. Don't worry about me. This is not a big deal. Just do well in school. I reached out to touch her hand because I thought that was what I was supposed to do. I was relieved. I was already thinking about the flight back and the bright California sunshine. She whispered something to Dad. He nodded and left the room. Jack, if... She was caught up in a fit of coughing and could not speak for some time. If I don't make it, don't be too sad and hurt your health. Focus on your life. Just keep that box you have in the attic with you, and every year at Qingming, just take it out and think of me. I'll be with you always. Qingming was the Chinese festival for the dead. When I was very young, Mom used to write a letter on Qingming to her dead parents back in China, telling them the good news about the past year of her life in America. She would read the letter out loud to me, and if I made a comment about something, she would write it down in the letter too. Then she would fold the letter into a paper crane and release it facing west. We would watch as the crane flapped its crisp wings on its long journey west toward the Pacific, toward China, toward the graves of Mom's family. It had been many years since I last did that with her. I don't know anything about the Chinese calendar, I said. Just rest, Mom. Just keep the box with you and open it once in a while. Just open. She began to cough again. It's okay, Mom. I stroked her arm awkwardly. Haizi, Mama Aini. Her cough took over again. An image from years ago flashed into my memory. Mom saying I and then putting her hand over her heart. All right, Mom, stop talking. Dad came back, and I said that I needed to get to the airport early because I didn't want to miss my flight. She died when my plane was somewhere over Nevada. Dad aged rapidly after Mom died. The house was too big for him and had to be sold. My girlfriend Susan and I went to help him pack and clean the place. Susan found the shoebox in the attic. The paper menagerie, hidden in the uninsulated darkness of the attic for so long, had become brittle, and the bright wrapping paper patterns had faded. I've never seen origami like this, Susan said. Your mom was an amazing artist. The paper animals did not move. Perhaps whatever magic had animated them had stopped when Mom died. Or perhaps I had only imagined that these paper constructions were once alive. The memory of children could not be trusted. It was the first week in April, 2 years after Mom's death. Susan was out of town on one of her endless trips as a management consultant, and I was home, lazily flipping through the TV channels. I paused at a documentary about sharks. Suddenly, I saw in my mind Mom's hands as they folded and refolded tinfoil to make a shark for me, Allahu, and I watched. A rustle. I looked up and saw that a ball of wrapping paper and torn tape was on the floor next to the bookshelf. I walked over to pick it up for the trash. The ball of paper shifted, unfurled itself, and I saw that it was Lauhu, who I hadn't thought about in a very long time. Rarasa. Mom must have put him back together after I had given up. He was smaller than I remembered, or maybe it was just that back then my fists were smaller. Susan had put the paper animals around our apartment as decoration. She probably left Lauhu in a pretty hidden corner because he looked so shabby. I sat down on the floor and reached out a finger. Lauhu's tail twitched and he pounced playfully. I laughed, stroking his back. Lauhu purred under my hand. How have you been, old buddy? Lauhu stopped playing. He got up, jumped with feline grace into my lap, and proceeded to unfold himself. In my lap was a square of creased wrapping paper, the plain side up. It was filled with dense Chinese characters. I had never learned to read Chinese, but I knew the characters for son, and they were at the top, where you'd expect them in a letter addressed to you, written in Mom's awkward, childish handwriting. I went to the computer to check the internet. Today was Qingming. I took the letter with me downtown, where I knew the Chinese tour buses stopped. I stopped every tourist, asking, Nin hui du zhongwen ma? Can you read Chinese? I hadn't spoken Chinese in so long that I wasn't sure if they understood. A young woman agreed to help. We sat down on a bench together, and she read the letter to me aloud. The language that I had tried to forget for years came back, and I felt the words sinking into me, through my skin, through my bones, until they squeezed right around my heart. Son, we haven't talked in a long time. You are so angry when I try to touch you that I'm afraid. And I think maybe this pain I feel all the time now is something serious. So I decided to write to you. I'm going to write in the paper animals I made for you that you used to like so much. The animals will stop moving when I stop breathing, but if I write to you with all my heart, I'll leave a little of myself behind on this paper in these words. Then, if you think of me on Qingming, when the spirits of the departed are allowed to visit their families, you'll make the parts of myself I leave behind come alive too. The creatures I made for you will again leap and run and pounce, and maybe you'll get to see these words then. Because I have to write with all my heart, I need to write to you in Chinese. All this time, I still haven't told you the story of my life. When you were little, I always thought I'd tell you the story when you were older, so you could understand, but somehow that chance never came up. I was born in 1957 in Segulu village, Hebei province. Your grandparents were both from very poor peasant families with few relatives. Only a few years after I was born, the Great Famines struck China, during which 30 million people died. The first memory I have was waking up to see my mother eating dirt so that she could fill her belly and leave the last bit of flour for me. Things got better after that. Segulu is famous for its zhezhe paper craft, and my mother taught me how to make paper animals and give them life. This was practical magic in the life of the village. We made paper birds to chase grasshoppers away from the fields and paper tigers to keep away the mice. For Chinese New Year, my friends and I made red paper dragons. I'll never forget the sight of all those little dragons zooming across the sky overhead, holding up strings of exploding firecrackers to scare away all the bad memories of the past year. You would have loved it. Then came the Cultural Revolution in 1966. Neighbor turned on neighbor and brother against brother. Someone remembered that my mother's brother, my uncle, had left for Hong Kong back in 1946 and became a merchant there. Having a relative in Hong Kong meant we were spies and enemies of the people, and we had to be struggled against in every way. Your poor grandmother, she couldn't take the abuse and threw herself down a well. Then some boys with hunting muskets dragged your grandfather away one day into the woods, and he never came back. There I was, a 10-year-old orphan. The only relative I had in the world was my uncle in Hong Kong. I snuck away one night and climbed onto a freight train going south. Down in Guangdong province a few days later, some men caught me stealing food from a field. When they heard that I was trying to get to Hong Kong, they laughed. "It's your lucky day. Our trade is to bring girls to Hong Kong." They hid me in the bottom of a truck along with other girls and smuggled us across the border. We were taken to a basement and told to stand up and look healthy and intelligent for the buyers. Families paid the warehouse a fee and came by to look us over and select one of us to adopt. The Jin family picked me to take care of their 2 boys. I got up every morning at 4 to prepare breakfast. I fed and bathed the boys. I shopped for food. I did the laundry and swept the floors. I followed the boys around and did their bidding. At night, I was locked into a cupboard in the kitchen to sleep. If I was slow or did anything wrong, I was beaten. If the boys did anything wrong, I was beaten. If I was caught trying to learn English, I was beaten. "Why do you want to learn English?" Mr. Jin asked. "You want to go to the police? We'll tell the police that you are a mainlander illegally in Hong Kong. They'd love to have you in their prison." 6 years I lived like this. One day, an old woman who sold fish to me in the morning market pulled me aside. "I know girls like you. How old are you now, 16? One day the man who owns you will get drunk, and he'll look at you and pull you to him, and you can't stop him. The wife will find out, and then you will think you have really gone to hell. You have to get out of this life. I know someone who can help." She told me about American men who wanted Asian wives. If I can cook, clean, and take care of my American husband, he'll give me a good life. It was the only hope I had. And that was how I got into the catalog with all those lies and met your father. It is not a very romantic story, but it is my story. In the suburbs of Connecticut, I was lonely. Your father was kind and gentle with me, and I was very grateful to him. But no one understood me, and I understood nothing. But then you were born. I was so happy when I looked into your face and saw shades of my mother, my father, and myself. I had lost my entire family, all of Sagulu, everything I ever knew and loved. But there you were, and your face was proof that they were real. I hadn't made them up. Now I had someone to talk to. I would teach you my language, and we could together remake a small piece of everything that I loved and lost. When you said your first words to me in Chinese that had the same accent as my mother and me, I cried for hours. When I made the first tse animals for you, and you laughed, I felt there were no worries in the world. You grew up a little, and now you could even help your father and I talk to each other. I was really at home now. I finally found a good life. I wished my parents could be here so that I could cook for them and give them a good life too. But my parents were no longer around. You know what the Chinese think is the saddest feeling in the world? It's for a child to finally grow the desire to take care of his parents, only to realize that they were long gone. Son, I know that you do not like your Chinese eyes, which are my eyes. I know that you do not like your Chinese hair, which is my hair. But can you understand how much joy your very existence brought to me? And can you understand how it felt when you stopped talking to me and won't let me talk to you in Chinese? I felt like I was losing everything all over again. Why won't you talk to me, son? The pain makes it hard to write. The young woman handed the paper back to me. I could not bear to look at her in the face. Without looking up, I asked for her help in tracing out the character for I on the paper below Mom's letter. I wrote the character again and again on the paper, intertwining my pen strokes with her words. The young woman reached out and put a hand on my shoulder. Then she got up and left, leaving me alone with my mother. Following the creases, I refolded the paper back into Laohu. I cradled him in the nook of my arm, and as he purred, we began the walk home. An advanced reader's pick.
Stop share. Okay, there's the story. And you have a copy of the story in the classroom so that you can have a look at that now. I'm going to throw some questions at you. I have that sheet prepared and also stuck in the classroom. I revised it since this morning because of things that the group this morning brought up. So yeah, let me give you that now. Here we are. So this is what you're looking at, discussion points for the paper Menagerie. Now, I can't share this with you on the screen. You will need to have your own copy to look at, and you might actually want to look at it on your phone or something as you answer the question. I'm going to divide you into two groups, and I'm going to put you into two classrooms so that you're in small groups of hang on, we haven't got Alison, have we?
Not yet.
Oh, no.
She's on the way.
Oh, no, wait,
Yeah.
did she say that? Did she say
Stuck
that?
in a jam.
What did she say? Oh, God.
She said she'll try to make it by 6, I think.
Yeah, but that's the problem is I don't know how to put her into a classroom. Yes, and that makes it difficult. Sorry, that makes it too difficult in terms of numbers. If we had her, then it would be okay. But we don't have her, so therefore it's you guys discussing like you did last week, and I'll be a fly on the wall. And when she comes, I will try and put her into the classroom. Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah, stop share. So Okay, I'm going to put you all into a breakout room. You don't need a breakout room, do you, if there's only you guys? The other group this morning, it was really nice. 2 groups, yes. But since there's 5 of you, I think it's okay. It's okay. Right. So I can put the questions up then, and you can, I don't know. How do I record you how do I record your conversation if that's on the screen? No, I think you need a copy of those questions.
I
I'm going to kind of just be a fly on the wall and kind of stay out of it. I will listen, but I won't take part in your conversation. Okay.
I think you can share the document on screen and still record. Yeah.
But I can, but then I don't see as much of you, do I?
You smaller pictures?
Hang on a second. Wait a minute, and then I have to make this small as well.
I have printed
wait.
it out.
Yeah, you've printed it out. Everyone should have it, actually. So I've given
Yeah,
it. Have you
it.
printed it? Have you got it? You've got the questions.
Yeah, I've got it. But I think everybody should be able to get it from this.
From the classroom. Yeah. I mean, I can do that, but it's probably better for you discussing it if you can see each other a bit bigger. You know what I mean?
Okay, fine.
Okay, all right. Since you've got the questions, ma'am, you can be the one who poses the questions, but it is there. And if you've got your phone as well, you can always bring it up on your phone. All right. Just logistics. It's just trying to work out which is the best way to do things. Okay. So I'm stopping sharing and I am bowing out now. So
how do we do this?
I guess we can look at the first question. Here, as you read, note your reactions to the story. What do you feel at different points of it? Then look at the scenes that evoke particularly strong feeling in you and work out how the author achieves this effect.
Yeah, I think for me, it was that when he was 10 and they had moved to the new neighborhood, I felt that was where it changed for him and his relationship with his mother. And he realized he was different and that the feeling of not belonging, that something was wrong. And I think that shame that started to build in him. It's an enormously racist. I mean, the whole thing with racism is there. It's not that I didn't get any kind of feeling that he was a bad boy or it was just him trying to fit in, and he realized he didn't fit in because he had a different mother. That's I think that part was really, that first part there was quite strong because he had been just so sweet with that relationship with his mother until then.
For me, I think I really like the charm of the animals because it's so sweet and it's a nice contrast to all the other I guess sadness in the story because the bully and mom not fitting in because everything is more on the negative side, but how the animals move is just pure delight in a way. How and their reactions, they run around, get into little. So I really like that detail. Yeah. So at the very last when it described how he discovered them in attic or I think brittle or all worn away. Well, I felt sad. So I think the animals, the paper animals were the constant for me. It's like noting a difference, how they change throughout the story. So So at the last when then he revived on Qingming, and I was quite happy, that he had this ability to reconnect yeah, and even happier when at the end of the story he finished the letter and then he tucked, the letter, and then Lao Hu had a little growl. Oh, the magic's there in the sense. So I was quite happy about that. Yeah, so
Hannah,
how
is
the
it?
author.
Yes, him.
Hannah.
Him.
Is it Hema?
Yes.
Hi.
Hi.
What did you think?
I like how the story, I feel it was very simply written, and because of that, it really allows the scenes and the emotions to stand out. You spend more time feeling rather than processing like the words and all. I only noted one thing, capillary action. I'll have to check
the
what
buffalo.
that there was a word used there, capillary action. But yeah, I really like how it was very simple and it's very heartbreaking as well. But at the same time,
Tear jerker, I could.
yeah. But I like how it's written in a way where we can empathize with him, and we're not, it's very hard to not see where
Yes.
it's coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the style of writing is it does that. Just as an aside, when I imagine Lao Hu, for some reason Calvin and Hobbes are coming into my mind. Although it's not paper. It's just that whether it's real or imaginary, it's just that idea that it could have been existing in his mind. The hooks are important. I think one thing I noticed, the first sentence in the whole piece, I noticed how he uses the first sentence in many of the paragraphs to hook. This is one of my earliest memories starts with me sobbing. It's a kind of line that really piques your interest, sets the stage. And then another further down it says he changes when he changes to him and his father. Dad and I stood one on each side of mom lying in the hospital bed. It's that first line that really grabs you by the throat. Yeah.
And sets the scene, really.
That first line, that hook. Yeah. And I noticed the way it's written, there's an extra space. It's not a normal paragraph. It's left an additional space in the piece. Even the part where dad aged rapidly after mom died, page 36, he's put 3 dots there. So he changes the scene. It's a change in the setting. And he uses that first line that really pokes you in the eye or hits you in the throat. Yeah, that's what I noticed.
Just the scene breaks, it's because the story shifts,
Yes.
the tone and the emotional context.
Yeah.
So we have Sahara back now.
I've got to change to. I'm using my my phone now because something's wrong. Okay, but I will try to go back on my laptop.
We were taking turns.
And another line in the paragraph was, Dad picked mom out of a catalog. That was like the first line. It really really.
And there's contempt there, the feeling of contempt. I think that's the start of when he was feeling he didn't want to belong there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of craft in this piece, actually. That's why it's so easy to read. I think when a
Yeah,
piece is really well written, you just swallow it. You just breathe it in, and I think that's what he's done.
Yeah,
There's a
it's
lot of
very painful, yeah,
Mm,
to
very
read
painful.
his rejection of his mother, his rejection of where he comes from.
mm,
Yeah.
And that's at how much pain it caused her, which he, of course, growing up, didn't realize. And
Mm.
so it was really heartbreaking.
And that part where he said he didn't want to think about that 2 weeks with Mark, right? I'm trying to find
mm,
that also it shows that something really bad happened, but it's just too painful for him to speak about it, or he doesn't it is implied that something happened.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. I've read this phrase. I've read this phrase from an author. It says something about the theater of the reader's mind. So when you read something like that, you can actually play the whole scene in your mind without him having to say anything.
Mm. True.
Yeah, actually, he didn't need to say anything. Our imagination probably filled in everything for us.
But that's what when I think he's shown so much in this little short story that's
Mm,
so impactful
mm,
of this whole longing to fit in, and it's I think that's why short stories are so difficult, because you have this very limited time to put forward everything
mm,
into this one little compact
mm,
piece. And it's amazing, I think, how he did it. And like Hema said, it can come across as just this it like it's almost written like it's this simple
mm,
story, but it's not. It's just
mm,
so deep.
mm,
It's quite genius there.
I
mm,
find it funny as well that the person who took him back to rediscover his roots was his Susan, his fiancée or wife.
mm,
She showed
Girlfriend.
a friend, yeah, she showed some interest, and also she appreciated the mother's talent, you know, and that the toys are not trash. Yeah, it's her
Mm.
talent, and and that was why he actually saw, and that was when the moment when the toys came to life.
Again.
It didn't. Yeah, that was when the toys came to life, and
mm,
then when he decided to look at the messages, and then took this to another woman who would read to him in Chinese. That's the connection there. There's a point of reconnection there, I
mm.
find.
That he came back, yes, through a Chinese
Yeah,
woman. Yeah. And almost like in a way telling us that he's finally accepted, in a way. That's how
yeah,
it felt leaving at the end of the story, that he's accepting who he was. And of course it must be very painful for him to know how his mother suffered.
yeah,
It also feels like he relied a lot on external validation. So when he was younger, everyone they were not approving of him being having a Chinese mom and things like that. And then in school and probably in university, and then later on, like when his girlfriend reacts positively towards his mom's craft, then he seems to accept it and he allows it to be like around the house. And
mhm,
You know, Hammer, it's interesting also, even though he had rejected one, in his opinion, foreign culture, he took up French.
uh-huh.
yeah,
Isn't it interesting?
Mm.
yeah,
Maybe
Yeah.
because French is accepted by the Western world and
It's normalized, yeah,
yeah.
probably in that educational environment at the
Yeah,
time.
but in America, though, in America, you take out French. If you're in Canada and you took out French, of course you have to.
I think America is normally Spanish, right? They take out
That I think that
Spanish.
was another rejection of him and where he comes from and of his mother.
His identity. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Identity.
the last, sorry. The last paragraph where he asked the Chinese lady to wear the word I. Yeah, I means love, to mark all the characters that says I, and he walked back with that. I think that is so important. He didn't want to hear that from his mother, but now that she's gone, he wanted to see it.
But didn't he write over it? So it's almost like he was touching his mother again by writing over that word.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zahara, I think you can echo.
I think, hang
So
on.
the mom also says something. The mom also echoes something which he's feeling, but he didn't say. And in her letter, this is what I think. Okay.
So
So
go ahead.
the mom says, you know what the Chinese think is the saddest feeling in the world. It's for a child to finally grow the desire to take care of his parents, only to realize that they were gone. So she's saying something about her own parents, but it's also reflecting something which he's probably feeling. Quite clever. Actually, quite clever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think it. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I mean, just extending from what Lam was saying about that piece of cultural, because I think if this is published in American context, so I think it's good to feed in that cultural information, because the average Western reader probably don't really know that parents being filial is quite one of the cornerstone of Asian families.
Good
so I
point.
think it's smart that they put it there. Then they can make the connection that it's also in relation to him as well, what he's going through.
Yeah.
I mean, this is quite universal, because if we don't use the word child and parents in it, if you say friend, it's quite universal feeling that you don't know what you got till you lost it. That kind of universal.
And he's of course going to be filled with regret, but it's it probably has been in him, because when you feel that shame, it can't be comfortable.
No, and he was running downtown with a piece of paper talking to strangers. It must have done something.
But there was a point where, when he fought with Mark, he was trying to defend the traditional toys, yeah, as opposed to the he fought. They physically fought, right?
No, but I think wasn't because that was all he knew until then. I got that was his innocence broken, because when he realized that his toys suddenly meant nothing when they meant everything to him.
Yes.
And that was him starting to realize he doesn't fit in.
Yeah.
And then his whole rejection of that, and the rejection of his mother. And for her, I mean, he was the only connection to the life that she had left behind. So it was
sad,
immensely sad, painful.
Yeah. Can I just turn the conversation a little bit to the next question, which is about yearning? So Robert Olin Butler talks about yearning as an essential ingredient. I think what we've been talking about is about feelings, and yearning is a feeling. So what are your you think is the yearning in the story?
The yearning is like the secret, the deepest desire. What is the author actually desiring for? I mean, that's what's yearning in context to Butler, from what
To
I've read.
belong.
To
To
belong.
belong. I think.
Mm,
To be loved, to be, sorry, I didn't hear that.
to
Belong.
I think
belong.
To belong.
Mm,
And to belong is also part and parcel of being to be loved.
Mm.
and accepted.
Yes.
Not be an outsider. Yeah.
So it was the quest for yearning to be accepted. That's why driven him to turn his back on his mother's and the heritage language, and everything else that was central to him in his first 10 years of his life. Yeah.
And it was
And the
also
rejection of
What do you think the father was yearning?
father.
Don't get much about the father here for me.
Yeah.
Actually, the neighbor said something about the father, which was interesting.
yeah, he's
Things are not novel
What's
enough.
wrong with him kind of thing. Is it?
It's like, why would he get a
Yeah,
catalog
that.
bride? Yeah.
Mm.
Actually, why?
It must have been love at first sight, I guess. Because he could have like rejected her, right? Because they had a chance to meet. But then he
But
took
why would he want
Even
a
the catalog.
catalog?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it did say about, when the woman who was selling fish to her when she was small did say that a lot of American men would want wives or women like you who can cook, who can do this and that, So the father, he was one of them. He didn't, but he was portrayed, I think, as quite a nice guy. He accepted her.
Mm.
He didn't treat her badly.
No.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but
No.
I hate that bit when everyone started to say, "Speak English, speak English, speak English." I hated that part so much. I could almost hear it.
I could see it. Yeah, I could visualize it. Exactly. Right.
He had been very kind to her, though.
He was kind. I think he wasn't bad, But I think all the others. Where is the echo coming from?
I think you need to turn off one of your devices.
I did. I switched off. I switched off already.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. There's no echo now.
But I think he must have been quite open-minded to get into a marriage like that to start with, considering how much racism there exists. So
yes.
But should he have helped her more